بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إله العالمين وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the honor of the Holy Prophet Rasulullah and his immaculate progeny Ahlul Bayt, especially his daughter, the master of the woman of the universe, Sayyidat Nisa al-Alamin, Fatemiyya Zahra, please recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Once again, my condolences on the arrival of 13th of Jamadul Ula, anniversary of martyrdom of Hazrat Zahra Salamullah Alaiha. There are two famous narration, one from Shaykh Kulaini, one from Shaykh Tusi, that which day is the accurate day of the Shahada and martyrdom of Hazrat Fatima. The first one, according to Shaykh Kulaini, was today, 13th of Jamadul Ula. And the second opinion is the 3rd of Jamadul Thani, which will be 20 days from now, according to Shaykh Tusi. Usually among the followers of Ahlul Bayt, we use both of these dates as a reason to commemorate and remember the legacy of Hazrat Zahra Salamullah Alaiha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us once again ma'rifah, recognition of the status of the message of Fatemiyya Zahra and her father Rasulullah, and grant us intercession of the Prophet and his family, especially Fatemiyya Zahra Salamullah Alaiha. Recite another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Last night we discussed this title that Imam Jawad alayhi salam referred to Fatemiyya Zahra Salamullah Alaiha. There's a short ziyarat which Imam Jawad alayhi salam called Fatemiyya Zahra Ya Mumtahana, or Ya Mumtahana, Imtahanakillah qabla an yakhlugak, which means, peace be upon you, O the one that you were tested. You went through trials, you went through tribulations and difficulties, and you are the victorious, the triumphant of this test. And for that reason, last night we talked about importance of trials and tests in our lives. What we mentioned, it was number one, we should know that this life was not meant to be a smooth sailing, easy, comfortable, everything going according to our plan. Otherwise, it would have been called dunya. Dunya has two meanings, by the way. The root of the word dunya, which means this life, the world. In Arabic, there's either coming from duno or dani. Those who say that the word dunya comes from duno means closeness, something that is so close to you, is nearby. And the reason this call is close is in comparison with the akhirah, which is the hereafter. This is right now. This is what we are dealing with. The other life is coming. So this is near, the other one is delayed. The other root is come from dani. Dani means something that is lowly, worthless, or at least not that valuable. And dunya is called dunya because it's not that valuable in comparison with the other life. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى, Allah says. That the true life, the the one that is eternal, the one that is immortality, the one is that ultimate salvation is there. In comparison with this life, that one has more value. And of course, simple mathematics and a short temporary life in comparison with an eternal life, which one will be more valuable and significant? So in this dunya that we live in, we should know this dunya was not meant to be according to our desires. Otherwise, we would see people, at least majority of people, living a comfortable life. But the reality is far from it. Unfortunately, majority of time we can see people who are in different kind of challenges, troubles. We have financial issues, just it's shocking to look at number of people. According to many studies around the world, how many children every night they sleep without having a meal. They sleep with a hungry stomach. It's not a comfortable life. To look at the number of people who don't have access to clean water is shocking. It's not a comfortable life. For many, it's not. Yes, when you look at TikTok, Instagram, we can see rich people. We can look at their luxury, their lifestyles, how they throw out money and how they spend, and their brands. And as I said, boasting and bragging and showing off. But the real life, which is we're talking about, we just passed 8 billion people living on this planet. The number of people who have those kind of lifestyle are not a big percentage of the population of the world. So this dunya has its own challenges, has its own difficulty. Even our physical health, as a child, right, we have weaknesses. Physically, we're not that strong. As we become a teenager, we go through puberty and we are, it's awkwardness and weird signs of it. And then we go and become young. And that age of youth is very, let's call them numbered, right, in years. It's not that long. How we define youth, 18 to, now again, I don't want to offend anyone, but again, according to some, the youth is starting from 18 all the way to 40 or 35, pretty much it. And they call 40 as the middle age, and then you have 50s and 60s and above being considered those who are at the age of adulthood, and eventually the quality of life starts to decrease, right? Our physical health is not the same. Everything starts to deteriorate. And that's what part of life is not. I'm not trying to be cynical or a pessimist or dark. No, the reality of life is done. And if somebody doesn't get it, it's like that you go on a ride and this ride is going to take 10 minutes, right? If you go to these amusement park, these roller coasters and all that, if somebody expects this roller coaster to go for hours, they will be disappointed when it finishes in 10 minutes. This life is not meant to be forever. So knowing that there are just literally a roller coaster, we start low, there is a peak, and then there's low. Physically, of course, we're not talking about the spiritually. We're not talking about quality of life. Knowing that help us to make good decisions. Prepare ourselves for this way of life. Not living in a lie and a delusion that this is going to be forever. The way I live is going to be forever. So we talked about the importance of tests. That there are challenges in life. We divided them according to the description of our religion. Even also logically, even if you look at it from a non-religious perspective, the issues and troubles that we go through, either we caused them, they're self-made, and basically they are what we did to ourselves. We only have to blame ourselves for them. And then there are those issues in our lives that we don't have any say in them. We are not responsible. We call them, those are events in our lives that there are decrees. They are meant to be. There's fate, there's plan, there's destiny. So which family I was born into? Never my choice. Nobody can choose that. I want to live forever. is not my choice. It's not something I can choose. Matters that, how I look, at least at birth. Right now, yes, of course, we have surgeries and all that, but naturally, right? Eye color, genetics, DNA, we don't choose any of that. These are out of our control. Even our IQ, there's so many of these apps that they claim, do those exercises. How many of you have those apps, right? That promise that you'll get smarter or you'll get sharper? According to many studies, they don't work that way. Yeah, they help you probably learn how to solve a puzzle because now you know how to solve it, but it doesn't really make you smarter in that way. There are things that is out of our control. Yes, there are things that we learn by practice. There are ways that we sharpen our skills. We learn, but something that is intelligent and IQ is not something we can really affect and impact that way. It's not our call. So on those matters, we should understand is out of our control. We should stop blaming ourselves. If I look this way, if I don't have a beautiful voice, if my memory is to this capacity, if my intelligence is here, this is it. I can maximize my profit and my gain from it, but I can change it. So knowing the difference between these two is a moment of reflection. When we look at our traditions, reflection, thinking's value is higher than any other act of worship. تفكر ساعة أفضل من عبادة 70 سنة. Sa'a in Arabic doesn't mean an hour. Sa'a means a moment. A moment, a given moment. A moment of tafakkur, pondering and reflection, is greater in value than 70 years of worship. So this is not saying that from tomorrow we should not pray, we should not wake up for Fajr and reflect. The point of this is that a prayer without reflection, even if 70 years of it, eventually the moment of difficulty and challenge makes people fail. Examples are numerous examples. Allah in Quran give us the example of Birsisa. Who's Birsisa? He was one of the Bani Israel, right? He was a man of worship, very highly respected in his community and among his people. A moment of test, a moment of true nature finding a chance to show itself came. And Birsisa, what happened? A man who was respected and was known for his worship, suddenly he became a murderer because of his desires. He killed someone. He was, of course, exposed. He was arrested. And then as he was being carried and dragged to be punished, Shaitan told him, okay, you made a mistake, but I can help you. If you believe in me and you abandon God, I'll be the one who save you. And he did that. So he turned away from Allah as well. He died as a kafir. Years of worship disappeared in a matter of time. 70 years of worship without reflection, without understanding. I give an example. Somebody can recite Quran. I known cases like that. Allah protect us. Allah keep us from misguidance and deviance. I've known people who were so into religion, memorizing Quran, reciting one dua after dua. And I was telling them, please, take it easy. You did good. But they wanted to do more and more. But it came to a point, in a matter of years, they abandoned everything. They become someone we don't recognize anymore. I'm not trying to judge them or anything. It's a sense of pain I feel that you had everything at your disposal and you lost it. I feel bad for you. There are people that because of, let's say, for years I was wearing hijab, for years I was doing my salat, for years I was doing everything according to my faith. Suddenly I have a moment of social media. It's a vicious environment in social media and you feel pressured, you give up everything. You want to prove yourself. I'm not like them. I'm not them. So what should I do? Become like us. And they do, some of them. It's not that easy to stay true to your identity, especially your religious identity. We have a certain limit and cap to tolerate hardship. So that's why when we believe with reflection, well, I understand what am I doing. This is like, day and night situation, that if somebody come to me and tell me that right now is day outside, but because I know it's not day, it's night, doesn't matter how many people come tell me, I say it's night. It's clear to me. I understand what night is, what day is. So when it comes to connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more clear it is to me why I pray. I understand my relationship with God. I don't do it because my dad did. I don't do it because my mom did. I truly understand why. I have a reflection. There was an epiphany. There was a moment of discovery for me to discover God. That tafakkur sa'an, that moment of reflection has a value higher than 70 years of worship without it. Because 70 years of worship without reflection, one charismatic friend, right? Somebody who comes who's very charismatic, they're a leader, you're a follower, they say something, 70 years is gone. I want to be like you. One doubt, one question, I don't know what's going on. I've been doing it blindly. Okay, I do what you say from now on. Unfortunately, we have people in their 60s, 50s, turning away from everything. And you may say, good for them. At least they find the right way at 50. No, at the age 50, they decided to destroy everything. They destroyed their marriage, destroyed their relationship, destroyed their lives. That was not something that, somebody was, God forbid, a superstitious human being until 50, and now suddenly they're an open-minded, they're now enlightened. No. The transformation, unfortunately, is not for good, it's for the worst. So that's why we should recognize what dunya is about. The challenges of this dunya, and know the difference between these two. That's a moment of reflection. When is my fault, and I own and I take that responsibility. I made this mistake, is on me. I should not blame God. I was not a cautious parent. My child fell in front of me and they hurt themselves, and I could have avoided it, but I didn't. I didn't baby-proof my house. Simple things. I was on my phone scrolling over TikTok or Instagram, and my child at the playground, they fell. I should blame myself. I did it. I was negligent. Own it. Say, it was my fault. Next time I should be careful. That's it. Don't say, it was Allah. Allah wanted my child to fall. Stop it. If you're responsible, if I'm responsible, I should take it. And there's so many other examples I can give. When we accept a responsibility anywhere, when we accept a responsibility, then we have to do it. We cannot blame God. Unfortunately, among people, this is not just religious people. This is not just religious people. And it could be outside, Islam. It could be any religion. It could be even people who don't believe in religion, but they believe in destiny. They believe in fate, right? We have people who said, I'm agnostic. I don't believe in God and the religion, but I believe that the universe has its own plan. Yeah, I don't believe in God, but I believe in rocks to have a special power. I don't believe in God, but I believe if I'm a Libra, if I have a zodiac sign, there's something. I don't believe in God. Those are nonsense, but Libra and pure crystals are okay. What happens? There's an easy scapegoat to blame everyone and everything around us, including the universe. For people who don't believe in God, there's universe. For people who believe in God, there's unfortunately God. In Mecca, unfortunately, they were doing some construction, and one of the construction machines actually fell because of the strong wind. People died. People died in that accident. Unfortunately, the Imam of Mecca came on Jummah prayer and said, that was God's plan. We couldn't have done anything. You could have done some safety measures to protect that machine from falling and killing people. No, it was God's plan, This is the issue. To blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or religion or God for your shortcomings. It's like when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam went to Karbala, there were people who abandoned him. They turned away from him. And when Hazrat Zainab came to City of Kufa and she started talking to them that what happened in Karbala, the massacre, the tragedy, people start crying. And Hazrat Zainab sallallahu alayhi said, why are you crying? What's the point of your tears? You wrote letters and you turned away from him. You invited him and you're the one who betrayed him and now you're crying? Own the responsibility. In our lives, that should be our lesson. Unfortunately, in marriages, one thing that is very difficult to see is now we have this men and women kind of power struggle, right? It's like a fight. Who's the leader? Who's in charge? Is it patriarchal society? Is about the fathers being in charge, mothers in charge? All these things, the only thing we don't see is somebody owning responsibility. It doesn't matter you're a man or woman. At the end of the day, if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're at fault, you're at fault. Are we brave enough to own it? That is what reflection is about. To leave myself, isolate myself, and think about, okay, where I am responsible for the issue or for the problems that is in my life, rather than blaming God, blaming fate, destiny, family, everyone. And there are moments, as I said, we're not responsible. You do everything right, but there are other, I have a free will, and others have free will as well. That's at the end of the day, I'm free, and I have that ability to choose, but others have the same as well. That's why Allah says to the Prophet, when it comes to reminders, إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرٌ لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. Oh Prophet, you're just a reminder. You try to wake them up. They already deep down should know that your message is something not strange to who they are. It's part of them. It's in their fitrah, it's in their internal wiring, in their innate nature. There is a need to worship. There's need to ask the question, why? Why am I here? What was the point of my existence? What am I supposed to do? So Allah says to the Prophet, you're a reminder. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. You don't have control over their action. You remind them, but at the end of the day, if they choose it or not is up to them. In other words, Ya Rasulallah, فَلَا تَذَبْ نَفْسُكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسَرَاتٍ. Don't blame yourself for their lack of belief. It's not that you didn't do it well enough. You did everything. You were patient. You didn't ask them to do anything for you. You didn't ask for compensation or reward. You did it freely. You lived among them for 40 years to prove yourself, your honesty. You did everything right. You did not give them any excuse. Now, if they don't believe, it's up to them. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. Even Allah says, إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. Allah said, we show human beings the path of right, the right way of life. Either you're grateful, Allah says, وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا, or you're ungrateful. Choice is yours. There are moments that we should know in life, there are mistakes that people do, not because of you. Let's say you are not doing anything wrong. You're sitting in a masjid, somebody come and they're rude. They say something very disrespectful, hurtful. And then you say, why? What did I do? Yes, sometimes you did something rude to them before and now they're taking revenge. They're kind of reciprocating. Sometimes you didn't do anything. You're minding your own business, you're doing your own thing, and somebody comes and do it. Stop blaming yourself for that. That's part of life, that person unfortunately had that free will to say something. That's why then our reaction matters, not to lower ourselves to their level, right? But stop saying it was my fault. If I would have said salam to them, if I would have dressed better, it is not going to change anything. People did what they did because they chose to. So knowing the difference between that and test matters. The topic I want to discuss tonight, again, this seems a bit of a recap from last time, but there was additional Peace to that. Tonight I want to talk in order to overcome the challenges and the test of life, these trials as we call them, right? This bala, this moment of assessment. Who are the successful ones? How can we truly be among those who actually have the highest rate of success in these tests? If life and this life is nothing but a test, how can I pass it? Right? What would be a best way to do it? And according to life of Fatemiyya Zahra, let's learn from her. So using her as an example matters. Why? Because if you want to live as someone who went through difficulty, at childhood she lost her mother. So she was orphaned at a young age. That's one challenge. Her father was always abused and tortured in front of him. So she witnessed that as well. So it means she did not have an easy life. Another difficulty. And then when she got married with Imam Ali alayhi salam, there was poverty, there was financial issues, right? To the point that the revelation of Surah Al-Insan, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this family, Imam Ali, Fatemiyya Zahra alayhim salam, when they give away the only meal they had. So why this chapter and these verses revealed? Another moment of difficulty, by the way. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, they got sick, they were ill. Their parents, Imam Ali and Fatemiyya Zahra, they decided to make a nadhr. Nadhr is you make a pact with Allah, a vow. That you say, Ya Allah, if my children get better, I do something. So it's recommended to do nadhr. Some nadhr are, some of these vows and pacts are donation. They say, if this happened, I'm going to give this much money to the poor. Some of them are about action. If this happened, I'm going to say 100 salawat. I'm going to recite 1 juz of Quran. I'm going to fast for 3 days. Whatever kind of it. So their nazr, their vow and pact was to fast for 3 days. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, the children, if you get better, we're going to fast for 3 days. And they started fulfilling their pact, their promise to Allah, and they started making up those days. So it wasn't month of Ramadan. It was day following up their nazr. And by the way, to follow through with your nazr is mandatory. So it's also learning some rules about nazr. Don't make a nazr if you cannot fulfill it. Nobody requires you to make a nazr, but if we make a nazr, then we have to stick with it. So there are conditions. One of those conditions, you have to do the nazr for the sake of Allah. He said, I made this nazr for Allah, for God. That has to be said. Second is that you do it not out of anger, not out of sadness. Another, you were in the right mind when you made the nazr. Third, you should have been able to fulfill it. It should be something doable. So if you give a nazr to walk for 15,000 miles or something, it's not valid. So it should be something doable. And also it should be something that is not forbidden. It's not that you're breaking a rule. You cannot make a nazr to do something bad or even discouraged. So after all those, then you have to fulfill it. They start fasting. They only had a very small inventory of food to begin with. There was some bread and some salt, some milk. And at the first night, we have that poor and someone who was basically a miskeen, destitute, knocked at the door. They opened, they asked for food at the time of iftar, and they shared the only food that they have with them. They broke their fast with water and salt. That's it. They had no other food. That's the kind of poverty that Hazrat Zahra lived in. Right? And then we go to markets right now. We see our breads, our sangak breads is $4.99 instead of $3.99. You know, I lived through difficulty too. Life is tough, man. There is no other meal. Okay, second night, second day they're fasting because they did 3 days, they have to do it consecutively. An orphan knocked at the door, asked for food. Again, the only meal they had that they provided for the day, for their iftar, they share with the orphan. Nothing again. Third day, asir, a captive, prisoner of war. Somebody who was an enemy, now they're captured. So it's not someone who's really your friend. No, it's somebody who was captured because they're trying to kill their opposition. Now they're captured. They ask for food. Third day, share their food, breaking their fast with some salt and water. These verses revealed Allah praising this family. Surah Al-Insan, by the way, amazing. The surah is the human being. So Allah is saying, you want to see a human being, this is what I'm talking about. The true human beings show themselves at the time of difficulty. If everything is going well and you're not a good person, you're a psychopath. I'm a psychopath. If everything is going well and I'm causing trouble, what's wrong with you? When things are not according to plan, that is the moment we know who is the true human being. There's this hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam says that there are 3 types of people, you can test them in 3 occasions. If you want to know who they are truly. Al-Halim عند الغضب. If you want to test somebody's patience, if you want to know who truly is, they call it, the one with the forbearance or patience. Imam alayhi salam said you should test them or you should observe them at the time of anger. Anger. If everything is going according to plan, why am I upset? The moment life doesn't go according to plan, you're late, somebody's screaming, somebody's annoying you, I'm agitated, that's the moment I know if somebody's patient, if I'm patient or not. Children are crying, right? You have to get to work, you have to make break. There's so many things happening, that's the moment I lose my mind. What's going on? Right? Second one, Imam Ali alayhi salam said, to test somebody, al-akh inda al-haja. If you want to find a true friend, somebody like a brother, like a sister, if you want to test a true friend, find them at the time of need. When you have and you're the one who are spending, of course everybody's going to be there. Right? And to celebrate your achievement, you celebrate your success. But the time of need, the moment that I fell, the moment that I lost my job, my money, whatever it is, the true friend will be recognizable at that moment, at the time of need. And the third one, Imam alayhi salam said bravery, ash-shuja'. If you want to know who truly brave is, look at it at the time of conflict. When you need somebody in a conflict, the one who's running away and the one who's standing their ground. So in this life that we live in, mumtahina, the one who's tested, she's the one who went through all these different challenges. Financial troubles. Now she's married, she has financial troubles. For 3 days, there's no food. In the house of the daughter of a prophet of God, in the house of the commander of faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib, there's no food. Because they're immigrants, they came from Mecca, they left everything behind, they start from scratch. A lot of our parents will feel what that means. I know people who came to this country as immigrants with $20 or with nothing in their pocket. And they built their life from scratch. So that is tough. That is tough. And now we can see after her father passed away, another challenge. What happened after that? The way she was treated. She had a land given to her by prophet. They took away the land. They came at her house forcefully, broke down the door, take out her husband. Tell me about difficulty. These are challenges. And if you want to find somebody who they are, find them at the time of difficulty. Because at the time of ease, we have a persona, we have a mask. Everything is going well. As soon as there is a moment that either I lost money, I lost my temper, I lost something, there's some kind of void, that's the moment I'll be tested. That's why you have in tradition, the Prophet said, I'm more concerned for you at the time of ease than the time of difficulty. I said, why? It should be the other way around. That we have to be concerned about the time of difficulty, but why Prophet is more concerned with everything is yusr and easy? Because the reason is, we become who we at the time of difficulty based on the way we live at the time of ease. Right? What kind of person I am right now, that everything is going to according to plan? That person, if it's strong right now, it will be strong at the time of difficulty. But if right now everything is going to, my way, I'm lazy, God forbid, I'm just caring for my desires and lust and shahwa, at the time of difficulty, probably I will be the first one to break down. Because I didn't prepare myself for the difficulty to come. The time of ease should be the time of preparation. We know about them, especially as one of a kind. Is not, I don't think, is anywhere else in the world. There are people who are called doomsday people, right? Or doomsday preparation. They have bunkers ready to live there for years. They have stock of food and things like that. One thing we should learn from them is, of course, it's ridiculous to look at the way they do preparation, but it goes back all the way to the Cold War, the threat of, doomsday and possibility of clash between Soviet Union and US at the time. But one thing we should learn from them is, spiritually, we should have a bunker. Because right now everything is going to according to plan, but there is no guarantee for tomorrow that it's going according to plan. Yes, right now everybody's nice, everybody says salam. Maybe a year from now people are not the same way anymore. Am I depending who I am based on people's compliment and praise, or no? There's more to that in my personality and character. So, in order to be successful in the test of life, what we need, and this is what we, inshallah, have to discuss more. That is what we need, is called himma. We need courage. Courage is defined in English as acting at the time of fear. Doing something when everybody else is scared to do it. That's courage. To be able to overcome the challenges and difficulty. Courage is that ability to know your strength. When everybody is not, when everybody else maybe they are scared to even try, you try. That's courage. And Fatemiyya Zahra is an example of courage. Because after her house was attacked, after the way she was treated, she came to the masjid of Prophet. This is after all the tragedies, after she went through a miscarriage. She lost her child. She came to Prophet's mosque and she gave a sermon, a speech that made everyone silent as she was speaking. That requires courage. If somebody burned down your house, kill your child, and then you're still brave enough and courageous enough to come and still speak up. That kind of a mother is capable of raising brave children as well. That parent, that couple were capable of themselves being brave and now having brave children. And we know Imam Ali as being brave and courageous, but Fatemiyya Zahra Salamullah Alaiha's bravery and courage is noticeable across her life. And unfortunately, short life, but is still very, very clear. And we should learn about courage. To be able to stand up for our rights, for our dignity when is necessary. To know that to be courageous is not something that we're born with. We learn to become courageous. It's not something that is by birth. If I, God forbid, have overprotective children, most likely I had overprotective parents, most likely I'll be someone who don't have a lot of courage. There's some parents who hold on to their child and said, I will not let anything happen to you. And this is not a 2-year-old, this is not in one. No, they hold their 15-year-old and say that. And this child, when they're going to deal with bullies, cyber bullies or real bullies, they don't have what they need to stand up because they were unfortunately overprotected. Then you have the other way, which are there are some parents who unfortunately the opposite of that would be violent parents, right? Those who you look at the children and look at them as enemies, right? That I want to raise you tough. The balance is missing in some of these methods. One is too extreme, one is too soft. But the balance is come the moment of reflection, is somewhere in the middle. We learn courage from our tarbiyah, from our upbringing. We learn bravery from the behavior of our parents. But how to develop courage is something, inshallah, we will talk tomorrow. There are ways that we can enable the existing courage that we have. Because all of us, without exception, we were born with a lot of potential. And a good parent is not the one who tells their children that you should be like her, you should be like him. A good parent is the one who said, you should find what you're capable of and what Allah gave you. You have to discover your strength. But in order to do that, you should put aside fear, irrational fear. You should put aside being scared. You have to be courageous. May Allah inshallah give us the tawfiq of bravery and courage for what is right, for truth, and give us the ability to live a life of standing up for our values, standing up for our principles, living a life that before we need to prove ourselves to other people, we need to prove ourselves to ourselves first. And that is the true message of self-building, that you need to work on yourself. It's not to don't care about others. Of course it's about caring others, but if I'm weak, how can I help others? How? If I'm still struggling myself, how can I assist other people? So in summary, the topic of our lectures for the past 2 nights is in the ziyarat of Hazrat Fatemiyya. One of her names that she was addressed by was Mumtahana, the one who was tested, the one who went through trials and difficulties, and the one who passed it, overcome it. And we talked about the importance of tests, knowing that our worldview has to be correct, knowing the challenges of life, knowing the reality of life, that there are ups and downs part of this life. Inna ma'al usri yusra. And tonight we talked about, in this way, on the path of overcoming challenges, trials and difficulties, bala of dunya, we need courage. And all those prophets of Allah that they overcome bala, overcome test, overcome trial, they were courageous. Tell me which story of the Quran we read that talks about someone who was not courageous. Is it Musa alayhi salam facing Fir'aun? He must be courageous to face a tyrant as big as Fir'aun. Is it Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, standing up against her own husband? Is it Maryam salamullah alayha dealing with her people, accusing her of indecency? Is it companion of the cave, Ashab al-Kahf, when they stood up against their society who were critical of their belief? All of them had courage. And on that path, we can see the courage of our leaders, our imams. And as a mother of the imams, Ummul A'imma, Fatemiyya Zahra, we can see that courage. That she stood up for the truth. She stood up for her rights. She stood up for what was considered to be right and truth and haqq. Inshallah grant us the tawfiq of having that bravery and courage, but do it properly. Because improper courage, I come to it, because there are moments that there's ignorant decision, ignorant action, we think they're courageous, but they're not. There's proper courage. There's valid courage and there is pseudo courage. There's fake versions. May Allah inshallah grant us all the tawfiq of understanding, the tawfiq of practice, execution of the knowledge that we have, and help us to be among those who preach what we practice, inshallah. For the honor of Fatemiyya Zahra, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's say salam to Fatemiyya Zahra, salamullahi alayha. In the narration, been mentioned that in the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants certain individuals the right of shafa and intercession. One of them being the daughter of the Prophet, the chief of the women of the universe, Fatemiyya Zahra, salamullah alayha, to do intercession for those who are worthy. Inshallah, we will be worthy receiving of Allah's mercy, especially the mercy of Allah through Shafa'a Fatemiyya Zahra, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alayki ya Fatemiyya Zahra. يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا يا وجيهة اشفعي لنا. On the deathbed of Prophet, Fatemiyya Zahra was listening to the final word of her father, Prophet Rasulullah. And Prophet looked at Fatemiyya Zahra and said these words. He said, Ya Fatima, anti mazlumatan ba'di. My dear Fatima, you will go through a lot of challenges. You will be oppressed. You will be hurt after me. Rasulullah prepared Fatima for what's going to come. And the first event was when they come at the door of Fatima. We have that Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was in the house. They come at the door, ask for Ali ibn Abi Talib. Fatima asked Imam Ali alayhi salam to let her speak. She went forward and said, these people, they will respect me. I'm the daughter of the Prophet. They came by the door and they said, you should let us have Ali. We should take him to the masjid. You have to give his allegiance. And Fatemiyya Zahra refused. He said, if you don't, we will burn down this house with the people in it. Fatemiyya Zahra said, but in this house is the daughter of Prophet. In this house is Hassan and Hussein. Said, so be it. Even if they're in this house, we do what's necessary to be done. How heartbreaking is the door that Prophet, for a month he was coming at this door and reciting Ayat Tathir. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. He would come every day recite this ayah, that all Muslims recognize who are the Ahlul Bayt, who are the people of the household, which family Allah said that we cleanse and purify. But they forgot all that. As they broke down that door, Fatima being behind the door, the word of the narration is that Fatemiyya Zahra fell on the ground on her face. And she is the one who's carrying a child. She's pregnant. So we have, she called Fidda. She said, Fidda, ilayya, ilayya, come to me, Fidda, there is something wrong. That was a moment that the fifth child of Ali and Fatima was martyred and was killed at that moment. And they came to the house and dragged Amir al-Mu'mineen out of the house. This is a true bravery that you will know who Ali is. If you want to know Ali that is patient, the Ali that doesn't let his emotion and anger take over, that's the moment. That Ali ibn Abi Talib being brave enough to don't start a civil war, don't start what enemies of Islam are waiting for. He waited. He followed the word of Rasulullah. He followed what Allah wanted him to do. He went through all that, that if these people don't see it, that I should be the leader, I should be the successor, that's their loss. But what happened to the eyes, in front of the eyes of Hassan and Hussein at that moment? When they saw a burning door, when they saw their father being carried forcefully, when they saw their mother being assisted by Fidda, what happened to that child? Imagine how hard it is, how difficult it is for a child to witness that difficulty. But Ya Rasulullah, years later this tragedy continued from one way to another. This tragedy was the beginning of the tragedy of Karbala, because in the day of Ashura, as Zainab saw the burning tents, she remembered the burning door at her house. It was not the first time that Zainab saw fire in her house or in her surrounding. So we have that as Zainab salamullah alayha was gathering children from burning tents, she is assisting Imam Zain al-Abidin out of the burning tent. She is the eyewitness that she saw how children are running away from the enemies. The one that they tried to loot, the one that they tried to steal everything. They went for the earring, they went for anything valuable that they found. And even in some narrations says that even cradle of Ali al-Asghar was not spared. They stole everything from the family of Abu Abdullah, from the companions of Abu Abdullah's families, until the moment that we have Zainab, she started reciting, Ya Rasulullah, alayka minna salam, peace be upon you, Rasulullah, to see how your family were treated, how your family were treated after the loss, after the killing of your grandson Hussein alayhi salam. But this Zainab, through all this tragedy, did not lose her faith, did not lose her courage, because she was the one who stood up in the mansion of Yazid, in the courtyard of Yazid, as Yazid was hitting, as Yazid was hitting the head of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, and he was so proud of his victory. Zainab salamullah alayha stood up and said, Oh Yazid, you think you won this? You think you're victorious? By Allah, Allah knows that if you try to destroy our light, if you try to remove our love from the heart of people, this fire will get only stronger and stronger. وَعَلَى لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا